Mahalaga ang pagpapatupad ng polisiya ng pamahalaan para sa patas at epektibong kompetisyon. Ito ang nagbibigay daan para sa paglago ng ekonomiya ng ating bansa at nagpapabuti ng relasyong pangkomersyo ng Pilipinas at sa mga karating bansa sa South Asia. Ako po si Cathy San Gabriel, nag-uulat live mula sa Sofitel Hotel kung saan ginaganap po ang 8th East Asia Conference and Competition Law and Policy. Sa pangunguna po ng Pangulong Benigno S. Aquino III ay idinaraos po sa ating bansa sa kauna-unahang pagkakataon ang pinakamalaki at pinakamakabuluhang kompetisyon na forum sa East Asia. Unang beses din ito sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas na tayo ang mag-host ng nasabing forum. Gamit ang temang The Impact of Competition Policy and Law to the Market Economy, layunin ng komperensyang ito na mas lalo pang paigtingin at itaguyod ang kahalagahan ng competition policies, partikular na po dito sa ating bansa. At kaugnay po sa adhikain ng pamahalang Aquino tungo sa tapat at malinis na pamamalakad sa lahat ng sektor, layo nitong i-promote ang kultura ng kompetisyon para sa maging transparent, tama at walang lamangan sa lahat po ng public at private economic sectors ng ating bansa. At bilang mga consumer po, tayong lahat ay mga consumers, ano nga ba ang halaga ng competition policy para sa ating buhay? Kung mayroong healthy at competitive environment sa merkado, ang mga producer at supplier ay nagkukumpetensya na makagawa at makabenta ng mga produkto at serbisyong mas dekalidad sa mas mababang halaga. Dahil dito, maraming produkto at serbisyong napagpipilian po tayong mga consumer. Kanina po ay nakausap po natin ang chairman ng Japan Fair Trade Commission. Siya po si Chairman Kazuyuki Sugimoto at narito po ang ating naging panayam. Kanina po sa ating naging interview with Chairman Sugimoto ay itinanong po natin ang objective nitong ginaganap po na 8th East Asia Conference and Competition Law and Policy. At ayon nga po sa kanya, kasalukuyan pa lang pong lumalago o nag-uumpisang lumago ang kompetisyon at pagpopromote ng consumer welfare dito sa ating bayan. Habang inaantabayanan po natin ang playback ng interview na yan, ay narito po muna ang ilan sa mga nakita nating mga VIP dito po sa Mindanao Ballroom sa Sofitel Hotel. At aasahan po natin na sa pagtitipon ngayon ay marami pong iba't ibang dadalo mula sa mga business sector at maging yung mga miyembro mula sa international community. Samantala, tunghayan po natin ang ating naging interview kanina kay Chairman Sugimoto.
Competition policy is very important to promote the growth. We think no growth without competition. So in the East Asia, it is very important to keep competition policy in order to get growth smoothly. And now we must contact to each other, each competition authorities, in order to communicate very smoothly. That is why we gather here in order to communicate.
This is the first time that the Philippines is hosting the conference. Why was the Philippines chosen as host this year?
I think Philippines is in a great path of growth now. So it is important for Philippines to promote a competition policy in order to get growth, economic growth in this country. And then the Philippines has offered a very good place to contact each authorities.
How does East Asia stand when it comes to competition policies?
Mm-hmm. East Asia has started growth to a great extent. So it is an initial stage to promote competition policy in the East Asia. I think so.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Inaantabayanan na po dito sa Hotel Sofitel ng mga panauhin ang pagdating ng panauhin pandangal Pangulong Benigno S. Aquino III. Ngunit namataan po natin dito ang ilan sa mga opisyal ng Asian Development Bank Institute at maging ng Japan International Cooperation Agency. Nandito rin po si Justice Secretary Laila de Lima at ilang pang mga opisyales ng DOJ. Sila po ang ahensya na in charge para dito sa competition policy. At inaasahan din po ang partisipasyon ng ilang ahensyang katuwang ng Department of Justice sa pagpapatupad po ng competition policy dito sa ating bansa. Kasama ang kinatawan ng mga bansa mula sa Timog Silangang Asya tulad ng Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, syempre po ang Pilipinas, ang ilang pang mga miyembro ay Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam at darating din ang kinatawan mula sa Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Mongolia at ilang pong mga international competition authorities gaya po ng Australian Competition and Consumer Commission at ng Indonesian Competition. At dahil nga po nasa ilalim ng DOJ ang Office for Competition na tagapangasiwa ng event na ito ay nakapanayan po natin kanina si DOJ Secretary Laila de Lima. Secretary de Lima, gaano kahalaga po itong forum na ito para sa ating bansa at maging sa rehiyon ng Asya?
Ay mahalaga po ito, lalo na because of the very revitalized and growing economy in our country, recognized internationally now we're the fastest growing economy or one of the fastest growing economies in the world, ay kailangan din natin ng mga magagandang polisiya against monopolies and combinations in restraint of trade. Malinaw naman po sa ating konstitusyon na pinagbabawal ang mga monopolies and combinations in restraint of trade o yung mga sari-saring mga business practices na hindi nagdudulot ng healthy competition. So mahalaga po ito lalo na yung DOJ ho kasi was designated as the competition authority in an executive order number 45 issued in 2011. So sa rehiyon hong ito sa East Asia, yung competition authority po natin, yung Office for the Competition ng DOJ, ang pinakabata o pinakabago na competition office.
Ma'am, nabanggit niyo po itong competition office, but with regards po sa mga batas, ano po ang status and paano po ito ipinatutupad at meron na po ba tayong naparusahan na mga nag-aabuso?
Well, sa linya po ng competition cases ay ngayon lang po tayo nag-uumpisa na maging masigasig sa scrutinize ng mga business practices or business arrangements and mechanisms that curtail competition. Kaya nga ho, itong, through the office of ng DOJ, marami po tayo, there are several na hong mga batas, pero mga luma na po mga batas yan. At wala hong isang comprehensive na batas to address yung mga sari-sari hong issues surrounding competition. Kaya nga po sinusuportahan ho namin yung mga antitrust bills na mga pending po sa Kongreso. Well, last Congress po ay inumpisahan na po yan na tinalakay. Hindi lang ho natapos. So I guess our champions in both houses of Congress will again file or will refile those bills.
Secretary de Lima, isa po sa mga mahalagang ipinatutupad ng Administrasyong Aquino ay ang good governance. Gaano kahalaga po ang good governance with regard to competition?
If we only strictly enforce our competition policies and competition laws, ay makakatulong ho ito ng malaki sa good governance. Kasi good governance really require a dynamic business environment or a business climate. So if we have, if only we foster competition among our business establishments, among the business within the business sector, then malaki pong tulong yan para makapag-contribute sa growth and dynamism.
Aside from the benefits in our economy, ma'am, of good competition, isa rin po sa mga maibubunga nito ay ang pagpoprotekta rin sa kapakanan ng taong bayan bilang mga consumers. Pakipaliwanag po sa amin.
Opo. Kung maayos po natin enforce, nare-regulate ang mga business practices, ay matutulungan din ho natin yung ating mga consumers na hindi ho sila naloloko, hindi ho sila they're not being given really the fair share. And alam nyo naman, every now and then nagkakaroon ng mga issues about that na hindi maayos na natutugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng ating mga consumers. Yung consumerism ho natin medyo kulang pa. Kaya nga ina-advocate din ho natin yan. And really, to protect the rights and the welfare of the consumers are integral or essential ingredient in a sound competition policy.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Secretary De Lima. Yan po ang ating naging panayam kani-kanina lamang kay Justice Secretary Leila De Lima ukol po sa nagaganap na komperensya dito po sa Sofitel Hotel. Ako po muli si Cathy San Gabriel nag-uulat live mula dito para sa 8th East Asia Conference on Competition Law and Policy. At habang inaantabayanan po natin ang pagdating ng Pangulong Benigno S. Aquino III dito po sa Hotel Sofitel, ay narito po muna ang rundown of events na magaganap ngayong umaga. Pagkatapos ng opening session kung saan magbibigay ng mensahe ang Pangulo, ay magpapatuloy po ang forum sa pamamagitan ng special session ni Professor Tatsuo Hata. Siya po ang former president ng National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies ng Gakushuin University. At bago mananghalian naman ay magdaraos ng panel discussion tungkol sa impact and effect of enforcement of competition law kasama sina Rodney Sims, ang chairman ng Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, Kazuyuki Sugimoto, ang chairman ng Japan Fair Trade Commission, Byung-ki Kwon, ang Deputy Director ng Korean Fair Trade Commission, at Tsai Hui-an, ang Commissioner ng Taipei Fair Trade Commission. Magpapatuloy ang sesyon tungkol sa roles ng competition law and policy in East Asia at pag-uusapan dito po ang halaga at tungkulin at benepisyo ng competition law and policy sa pagtataguyod ng pambansang ekonomiya mag-aambagan din ang bawat kinatawan ng mga bansa tungkol sa mga karanasan nila sa pagpapatupad po ng mga competition law. Ang sentro ng diskusyon sa mga pangatlong sesyon ay ang progreso at mga hamong kinakaharap ng competition policy sa Pilipinas. Iahayag dito ang mga pinakahuling aktibidad ng DOJ, ang Office for Competition at ng ilang sectoral regulators ukol sa competition policy. At pag-uusapan din po ang kasalukuyang sitwasyon ng mga nakabimbing panukalang batas para naman sa isang komprehensibong competition law. Kanina nga po sa naging panayam po natin kay Secretary De Lima, sinabi niya po na napakarami pong batas sa Pilipinas patungkol sa kompetisyon, ngunit kailangan na po itong i-revise dahil medyo luma na po daw ito. At in-underline din niya ang kahalagahan ng enforcement ng mga batas na ito. Samantala, nakapanayam din po natin kanina ang Assistant Secretary ng DOJ na si Asek Geronimo C. patungkol pa rin sa competition policy sa ating bansa. Panoorin po natin. Ang Office for Competition po, ASEC, ay nasa ilalim ng DOJ. Pakipaliwanag po ang mandato ninyo at kung ano-ano po yung mga tinututukan ng opisinang ito.
Yung Office for Competition, 3 years in existence na siya. First time in the Philippines na nagkaroon tayo ng competition office. No? At maraming nagtatanong, bakit competition office na sa DOJ, hindi ba criminal cases ang sa DOJ? Ang nangyayari kasi for the past siguro 8 decades, ang focus has always been on criminal cases. But we haven't looked at the civil economic justice aspect, no? Kasi tinatawag natin economic justice, social justice, civic justice, criminal justice, isang hustisya lang naman yan eh. Kaya lang, hindi nagkakaroon ng enforcement body, walang enforcement arm. Kaya ang sabi ni Presidente, gusto niya makita yung governance issue kasama sa economic justice. Kaya ganun ang konsepto ng Office for Competition.
ASEC, nabanggit niyo po 3 taon pa lang in existence itong Office for Competition. What are the challenges that you are facing right now, especially po sa ating bansa na for a long time po ay marami pang mga monopolya?
Correct. The first is of course vested interest. No? Lahat naman tayo at the depth individually gusto naman natin makakabuti, makakaayos yung bansa, makakatulong. Nakita natin sa mga mass actions na we really mean well for everyone in the country. Pero at the other end of the personality kasi, kung naapekto yung business, naapekto yung revenues, yung kita, nababawasan yung profits or income ng isang grupo, syempre magkakaroon ng lobby yan, magkakaroon ng interest of the few against the interest of the many. Consumers ang natatamaan. So yun yung isang malaking challenge, yung tinatawag na private interest, lobby group, yung mga vested interest na ayaw magpa-reform ng competition culture.
ASEC, paano niyo po maikukumpara ang culture of competition sa ating bansa? Kumpara sa ibang mga bansa, lalo na po sa Asia, malakas po ba ang consumer rights? Paano niyo po siya maihahambing?
Siguro ang magandang konsepto, tanungin natin, ano ba yung consumer union natin sa Pilipinas? Meron bang consumer group? Kung meron kang problema sa department store, sa pagbili ng gamit, sa pagbalik ng refund, sa pag nawawalang mga load ng telepono, ano yung mga remedies? Ano yung naiisip ng isang consumer? Pinapabayaan lang ba natin? Or meron tayong matatakbuhan, mapupuntahan, masumbungan? Siguro yun yung isang barometer, yung isang indicator kung kamusta ang level of competition culture. Kasi link yan sa service culture eh. Kung merong competition culture, nagpapaganda ng serbisyo, nagpapaganda ng presyo, nagpapaganda ng kwalidad ng ating mga produkto.
Paano po makakaapekto ang magandang pagpapatupad nitong mga batas tungkol sa kompetisyon pagdating po sa aspeto ng inclusive growth na siyang pinopromote po ng ating administrasyon?
We always say, in fact, the speech of the President will hopefully dwell on the topic. Yung tinatawag na inclusive growth, byproduct yun. No? Yun yung resulta ng rule of law, na malinaw kung ano yung contract, ano yung pwede at hindi, ano yung masamang behavior, ano yung corruption na hindi pwede nakakasira ng business practices, at tinatawag na good governance. Kasi kung walang good governance, maski anong iyak natin, anong tawag natin sa inclusive growth, hindi mangyayari yon kung walang good governance. No? Let's set the conditions right, enabling environment, maayos ng institution, maayos na proseso, walang red tape, walang kung ano namang nahiningi. Growth will come. Growth is not something that you plan for, but good governance and the rule of law is something we can prepare for.
Okay, maraming salamat po, ASEC.
Good luck. Okay ba?
Okay. Law and Policy ang Pangulong
Ladies and
Benigno
gentlemen, announcing the arrival
Inaasahan na po ng magbibigay ng kanyang talumpati ang Pangulo sa harap ng iba't ibang mga delegado dito sa komperensyang ito. Yung mga delegado po na kasali dito ay mga miyembro ng DOJ, mga kinatawan po ng ng ADB Institute at ng Japan International Cooperation Agency. Tunghayan po natin ang programa.
Please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 8th East Asia Conference with the theme, The Impact of Competition Policy and Law to the Market Economy. To deliver the welcome address, may we now call on the Secretary of the Department of Justice, Honorable Leila M. De Lima.
Thank you. His Excellency, the President Benigno S. Aquino III, co-workers in government, our partners in the private sector, distinguished delegates to this conference, a good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Department of Justice of the Republic of the Philippines, I sincerely welcome you, the delegates, especially those who have traveled a distance to be with us at the 8th East Asia Conference on Competition, Law and Policy. We are pleased, very pleased, that our event is graced by His Excellency, President Benigno S. Aquino III, who shall provide his vision and directions for competition to be a cornerstone of reforms in governance and the rule of law in the service of inclusive growth and development. It is my task not only to formally open this event, but to share with you all some of the things we have done for our very own Office for Competition, or the OFC, which we simply call it, of the Department of Justice, to host this year's series of the most prestigious conference on competition policy and law in Asia. Please allow me to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Kazuyuki Sugimoto, Chairman of the Japan Fair Trade Commission, Dr. Yujing Jing, Capacity Building and Training Director of the Asian Development Bank Institute. You may stand to be acknowledged, please. Mr. Rod Sims, Chairman of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. Mr. Muhammad Nawir Messi, Chairman of the Commission for the Supervision of Business Competition, or KPPU. Dr. Jung Weon Jung, pardon any mispronunciation on my part, Commissioner of the Korea Fair Trade Commission. Ms. Sheila Dorai Raj, Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysia Competition Commission. Ms. Yena Hua Yen Lim, Chief Executive of the Competition Commission of Singapore. Ms. Diana Wei An Shai, Commissioner of the Taiwan Fair Trade Commission. Mr. Mung Van Back, Director General of the Vietnam Competition Authority. These are the participants from the East Asia economies. From sector regulators, notably the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Department of Trade and Industry, Energy Regulatory Commission, National Telecommunications Commission, National Water Resources Board, Philippine Ports Authority, Securities and Exchange Commission, Sugar Regulatory Administration, and Tariff Commission. The academe, especially from the Asian Institute of Management, Ateneo de Manila Law School, University of the Philippines College of Law, and UP Small Scale Industries. The business community, including the Federation of Philippine Industries, Inc., Korean Chamber of Commerce, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Philippine Association of Supermarkets, Inc., Philippine Exports Confederation, Inc., and Philippine Sugar Mills Association, and our partners from Congress, National Consumer Affairs Council, the National Economic Development Authority, Philippine Information Agency, and Philippine Institute of Development Studies. Thank you all for being here. The theme of the conference, the impact of competition policy and law to the market economy, is very close to our mandate and our hearts. We in government and in the Department of Justice exist to make sure that justice is not only an ideal or a principle, but a living day-to-day actual experience of how the state can and should relate to its citizens. For what is justice in the abstract is in essence the sense of fairness that we owe one another, whether as brothers or sisters, colleagues in the service, citizens, or consumers. And that is precisely what our Office for Competition is setting out to do. While ours is one of the youngest competition authorities in the world, we are committed to fulfilling our core mandate as part of the President's reform agenda. So please allow me to share our little competition story since our establishment in 2011. First, in realizing the magnitude of the tasks ahead, we created a governance structure of working groups in 5 areas, namely advocacy and partnerships, business and economics, enforcement and legal, consumer protection and welfare, and policy and planning. The idea was to engage a major government agency as a partner and co-chair for better coordination and results. We are pleased to mention that this is now in place with the signing of the formal terms of reference with the Tariff Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, Bureau of Internal Revenue, Department of Trade and Industry, and Philippine Institute for Development Studies. This is now the operative framework, and the core responsibilities are aligned with the functions of the OFC to help perform our mandate. Truly, as no one person can do the job, no one office can make competition rules work. 2, we proceeded to establish a bigger body called the Sector Regulators Council, or SRC. As you may be informed, the Philippines has more than 30 competition laws implemented by at least 60 agencies. The purpose
of the Sector Regulators Council is to provide focus and rhythm by clustering the different sector regulators and prioritizing the transport, energy, and communication sectors. 3, our national advocacy program is now firmly in place, beginning with the designation and observance of an annual National Competition Day every 5th of December, pursuant to a presidential proclamation. We also introduced another first in the country, a competition policy and law course as part of the curriculum for law and business graduate students in a premier educational institution. We have identified the training needs of judges, prosecutors, and investigators that is captured in a capacity building roadmap in tandem with the Supreme Court and our very own department. These are on top of our continuing outreach programs for the sector regulators, the business community, the consumer groups, and other stakeholders. The rest of the competition story can now be found in our Year 1 and Year 2 annual reports as part of your conference kit. And we did all this with only 2 people in 2010. The OFC of 2013 is now composed of 12 full-time and 20 seconded staff. Thank you, Mr. President, for the support. This has allowed us to do some of our tasks, which will continue to work harder and harder. This welcome address will not be complete without specially mentioning our main development partners, namely Japan International Cooperation Agency, European Union, GIZ, or the German Cooperation Agency, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, United States Agency for International Development, World Bank, International Finance Corporation. I leave it to the rest of the Office for Competition staff to render a full and detailed report on the development here and regionally, the Philippines being the current chair of the ASEAN Expert Group on Competition. In ending, I also wish you all the best of luck in the back-to-back activity, the 9th East Asia top-level officials meeting on competition policy. I hope you will allow me, and perhaps the President, to peek into the closed-door meeting exclusively for officials of the competition authorities and agencies to discuss the challenges in competition law enforcement and to foster closer cooperation within the East Asia region. I urge everyone to take full advantage of these twin activities to learn and share your knowledge and experiences. We thank you for coming. We thank the Japan Fair Trade Commission, the Asian Development Bank Institute, for their continuous effort in striving to organize this event almost annually since 2004, and to Japan International Cooperation Agency, our one constant partner in competition reforms. Thank you, and as we say in Filipino, to wish you all the best, mabuhay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. May we now hear the message of the Chairman of the Japan Fair Trade Commission, Mr. Kazuyuki Sugimoto.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be with you all here today. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to President Aquino for attending this conference. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Asian Development Bank Institute and the Japan International Cooperation Agency for their support to organize such a great conference. And I want to welcome the representatives from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission who have joined us today for the first time. With a rapidly globalizing economy and the high growth of Asian economies, there is increasingly greater need to cooperate and coordinate with neighbor countries. As the chairman of JFTC, I have assumed this position this March. I am delighted to be participating in the 8th East Asia Conference on Competition Law and Policy in Manila. It is my great honor to be here with you, especially this is the very first time for me to join a multinational conference on competition. When we look at the whole world, all over 120 economies have already established competition authorities. Lately, many Eastern Asia economies have enacted and developed competition laws. Recognizing such a situation, the East Asian Conference on Competition Law and Policy, together with the East Asian top-level officials meeting, were established as a forum for creating a competition network and strengthening mutual cooperation among competition authorities in the East Asia region. In Japan, we enacted an Anti-Monopoly Act in 1947. So more than 60 years have passed since the Anti-Monopoly Act was enacted. Yet, we recognize that the importance of competition policy is not fully understood. To tackle this challenge, I believe that it would be beneficial for every economy to hold an open-door discussion to bring together competition authorities, academicians, business community, and other related parties. I expect today's conference will contribute to the promotion of competition policy and lead to the introduction of comprehensive competition law in the Philippines. In the market economy, competition policy plays a key role in economic development. It is crucial to ensure a fair and competitive market for sustainable growth of the economy. Since the last December of the inauguration of the Abe cabinet in Japan, the Japanese economy has been picking up steadily and showing signs towards a self-sustaining recovery due to a series of economic policy measures called Abenomics. The government is implementing a policy mix consisting of 3 arrows as its basic policy, which are 1, bold monetary policy, 2, dynamic fiscal policy, 3, growth strategy. The mood in Japan has most certainly changed dramatically as a result of the first and second arrows of the economic revival. However, the most important arrow is the third, the growth strategy. For the growth strategy, it is necessary to secure a competitive environment by competition policy. In Japan, there are still some people who argue that protecting industry from competition is a key to revitalizing the economy. However, I want to point out that no economic growth without competition. I believe that we competition agencies are always expected to rigorously enforce competition law, considering the long-term benefit that can be obtained only by enforcement of competition law and implementation of competition policy. Based on its experience, the Japan Fair Trade Commission has actively supported the improvement of the competition environment in East Asia by promoting competition advocacy and providing technical assistance. As the chairman of JFTC, I will continuously make every effort to promote competition policy and mutual cooperation for further economic development in the East Asia region. Today, we have 3 sessions. In all sessions, we are to discuss important themes, and I believe that today's East Asian Conference here in Manila will be an epoch-making event, not only for the Philippines, but for the other Eastern Asia economies as well. I hope and I believe that discussion will be fruitful for all of us at this conference, being held in the very beautiful part of Orient Sea, the Philippines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. To introduce our keynote speaker, may we call on the Secretary of the Department of Justice, Honorable Leila M. De Lima.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III.
Thank you. Good morning. Secretary Leila De Lima, Mr. Kazuyuki Sugimoto, Dr. Yu Ching-Zing, Mr. Rod Sims, Mr. Mohamed Nawir Messi, Mr. Mungwan Bak, delegates from the East Asia economies, participants from the various from the various sector regulators, the academia, and the business community, fellow workers, government, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Over the years, more than a few commentators and intellectuals have claimed that perhaps the Asian psyche is attuned to a more rigorously structured paternal system. They have said that Western-style democracy is too messy, and that Asians thrive more when they have a strong father figure telling them what to do. In recent history, we have borne witness to this phenomenon several times. Many countries have had strongman rulers, some of whom were good and many of whom were not, which is perhaps what one could naturally expect of a system where a single person decides on anything and everything all the time. Less than 30 years ago, the Philippines was under such a system. It led to experiments like crony capitalism, which allowed monopolies to be granted to certain companies and worse, to single families. We saw the dictator basically grab and distribute control of entire industries. We saw legal restrictions to competitions passed for no other reason than patronage, done under the guise of causes such as nationalism. As a student of economics, I know that monopolies are incredibly inefficient. It kills innovation. There is zero impetus in a monopoly to continually improve your product or your service simply because you have your market cornered. True, the protected environment means the monopolizing company will flourish in the short term. The profits may even be astronomical, but it guarantees against a level playing field where competition can bring out the best in companies and in people. It also means that your industries will be ill-equipped when the time comes that they actually have to compete. In a world that is becoming increasingly globalized, the lack of a healthy competitive landscape is simply untenable and could spell any country's economic doom. This is precisely why this conference is timely. All of you are gathered here to talk about what can be done to create a fair, level playing field. All of you here are in some way subscribed to the idea that true inclusive economic growth can only be achieved by pursuing a healthy competitive environment, one that stokes the natural human drive to compete, to work hard, to innovate, and to create something of worth. Our administration is of the same mind, and since you will be spending the next few days talking about competition law and policy, perhaps I can share some of what we have done to create a business environment conducive to competition. To begin with, we established the National Competitiveness Council, chaired by the Department of Trade and Industry, to monitor our competitiveness policies. And I'm proud to say that they have been integral in our 20-place jump in the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index from 85th place in 2010 to 65th in 2012. We also realize that whatever competition law we have must be implemented efficiently. This is why, as many of you may know, in June of 2011, I signed Executive Order 45, establishing the Department of Justice's Office for Competition, which organized this event. Apart from promoting regional and international cooperation, the office is tasked specifically to investigate and prosecute all violations of competition laws, enforce competition policies and laws to protect consumers, supervise competition and promote transparency and accountability in markets, and undertake studies and reports to guide the industry and consumers. From the beginning, we have also made it easier for companies to set up shop here. After all, the success of a business should not be dictated solely by one's adeptness at navigating the bureaucratic maze. Instead, investors should be able to focus on delivering a quality product or service for a reasonable price. This is why our administration has been cutting bureaucratic red tape, and this has brought us great success. Under our watch, we have reduced the time it takes to start a business from 36 days to just 11 days, as well as the time it takes to register property from 39 days to 23 days. We have also made the processes for paying taxes faster, reducing the time it takes from 47 days to 14 days. And the work does not end here. Moving forward, we will strive to make the processes even more efficient so that we may shorten the time frame very much further. You may have also heard that we have liberalized aviation, allowing new local and foreign carriers such as AirAsia and Jin Air to set up shop here and compete, in turn boosting the performance of our tourism industry. We also passed the Common Carriers Tax Law, which will exempt all international air and shipping carriers from paying the 3% common carriers tax on receipts and income derived from transporting passengers. They will also be exempted from the gross Philippine billings tax derived from carrying passengers so long as their home countries grant the Philippines the same exemption. These policies, among others, makes it clear the Philippine government and the Filipino people are fully committed to fostering a level playing field. We are doing this because it is one of the most critical pathways to economic growth. We are doing this because we know our entrepreneurs and our workforce have the work ethic and the creativity to succeed in any environment. Indeed, competition is vital to the growth of any nation. In fact, it is vital to the growth of the world economy and even to the technological breakthroughs that have time and again pushed human civilization into its next great age. And the discussions you will be having here will be essential in continuing that tradition of growth and innovation. I'm hopeful that you will take the time to share your ideas and to listen to the ideas of others, all with a vision of how we can best improve Asia's and the world's competitive landscape. Thank you, and I wish all of you a pleasant stay in the Philippines. Good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Paano ko mag
This ends the opening session, but may we ask the President to please remain on stage for a short photo session. May we first call on the heads of the various competition authorities. Chairman Rodney Sims from Australia Competition and Consumer Commission. Chairperson Muhammad Nawir Messi from Indonesia APU. Chairman Kazuyuki Sugimoto from Japan Fair Trade Commission. Chief Executive Officer Sheila Raj from Malaysia Competition Commission. Ms. Yena Huayan Lim from the Competition Commission of Singapore. Dr. Diana Wian Chai from Chinese Taipei, Taiwan Fair Trade
Ando si
Commission.
Willie.
Director General
Dalawa na yung lumabas eh.
of Vietnam Competition Authority.
Alam naman ni Direk na live tayo dito.
Ang naging panayam ng Pangulong Benigno S. Aquino III, siya po ang panauhing pandangal sa kasalukuyang nagaganap na 8th East Asia Conference on Competition Law and Policy. Sa kanyang talumpati, nagbalik tanaw ang Pangulo sa nakaraan ng ating bansa sa panahon ng Rehimeng Marcos kung saan laganap ang crony capitalism at monopolya, kung saan pinatay nito ang maliliit na negosyo at ang ekonomiya. At pinahalagahan po o binigyang halaga ng Pangulo sa kanyang talumpati ang pagkakaroon ng kompetisyon sa kalakalan tungo sa paglago ng ekonomiya ng bansa at sa pagpapanatili po o sa pagtataguyod ng exclusive growth. Sa ngayon, ayon sa Pangulo ay pinahahalagahan ng kanyang administrasyon ang konseptong ito, ang pagpapatupad ng kompetisyon pagdating sa kalakalan. Patunay nito ang pagtatatag ng National Competitiveness Council at pag-angat ng ranggo ng Pilipinas sa 65 mula 85 sa World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index at ang pagtatatag ng Department of Justice Office for Competition. Ipinagbalaki rin ng Pangulo ang ilan pang programa ng pamahalaan para padaliin ang pagnenegosyo sa bansa. Ito ang pagbawas sa red tape, ang pag-liberalize ng aviation industry, at ang pagpapatupad at pagpasa ng Common Carriers Tax Law. Iginit din ng Pangulo ang commitment ng ating bansa sa pagpapatupad ng level playing field pagdating sa pagnenegosyo. At sa kasalukuyan po ay umaalis na mula dito sa Mindanao Ballroom sa Sofitel ang Pangulo para magbigay po ng isang live press briefing sa media. At inyo pong natunghayan ang special coverage natin dito sa 8th 8th East Asia Conference on Competition Law and Policy. Dito po sa Sofitel Philippine Plaza, abangan po natin ang magiging resulta ng forum na ito kung saan inaasahang malaki ang maiaambag ng Pilipinas sa pagbalangkas ng competition laws and policies na magdudulot naman ng mas maunlad na ekonomiya sa buong rehiyon ng Silangang Asya. At nagpapasalamat po kami sa People's Television, Telebisyon ng Bayan, sa RTVM, sa Radyo ng Bayan at IBC. Kami rin po ay napanood ninyo via live streaming sa www.rtvm.gov.ph at www.ptv.ph. Ako po si Cathy San Gabriel at wag po kayong bibitiw dito sa Telebisyon ng Bayan kung saan matutunghayan po natin at kasalukuyang inaabangan ang ibibigay po na press briefing ng Pangulong Benigno S. Aquino III mula po sa mga sasagutin po niya ang mga katanungan ng ating mga kasamahan sa media mula po sa iba't ibang networks. At ito po, mag-uumpisa na po ang press briefing ng Pangulo. Tunghayan po natin.
Handa na pong tumugon ng Pangulo. Una po magtatanong, Raymond Tilaza ng Bombo Radio Philippines.
Magandang umaga ulit, Mr. President. Hanggang sa ngayon po ay hindi pa nahuhuli itong si Janet Lim Napoles and worse ay hindi pa siya lumulutang. Pero pinapalutang po ngayon yung possibility na siya yung maging state witness. Ano po ang inyong pagtingin dito, Mr. President?
Siguro unang-una muna kailangan di ba, may warrant of arrest, ma-serve yung warrant of arrest, mapunta sa custody ng gobyerno ito si Mr. Polis at humarap doon sa mga akusasyon laban sa kanya. Yung pagiging state witness, pag-aaralan yan.